Writers love talking about structure. The three-act structure, Save the Cat, The Hero's Journey. All of these are definitely useful tools, but here's what I believe. Story doesn't have to live in those big act breaks. I think it lives in the smallest choices that you make line by line. The true architecture of your story is hidden in plain sight, in every little micro decision that your characters make. And that is what actually builds tension, surprise, and emotional depth. Welcome to Craft Thursday on Bourbon and Books. I am Melissa Bourbon, and this episode kicks off a new series on story strategy. Over the next few weeks, we're going to dig into pinch points and turning points, reversals, scene and sequel, and the reader psychology that keeps pages turning. Think of this as structure from the inside out. If that sounds like something you're going to love, hit subscribe so you do not miss the rest of this series. Today, we're starting where story truly happens. It is in the micro. So if you can learn to spot and shape those tiny little choices, your scenes will suddenly carry a lot more weight. Your tension will really blossom and your big act beats are going to land. So let's talk first about micro choices and how they shape the macro structure of your story. Let me show you how one tiny decision can change everything. Here's an example from The Bibliomancer's Daughter, which is one of my books. Pippin, my main character, she finds her father's secret study. And in that moment, I, as the writer, I had to make a decision. I had to choose. Number one, does she step inside immediately, driven by her curiosity? That's going to lead to instant momentum. We're in a discovery mode. My second choice is, does she hesitate? Does she leave her hand trembling on the doorknob? And if I make that choice, we stretch out the dread and steep the room in consequence. Or number three, does she turn away, telling herself she is not ready to know the truth? If I make this choice, we are delaying gratification, but at the same time, we're raising the stakes. Each path sends the story down a different hallway, a different corridor. One accelerates, one pressurizes, and one banks the tension for a bigger return later on. That is the hidden architecture. Here's another example from The House of Spells and Secrets, my book coming out in March. Rowan, my main character, is walking the halls of Swallow Hall late at night, and she hears a whisper, her name, coming from the dark. So my choices then are to call out, to break the silence, right? She is going to be brave. She's going to be proactive in this moment. Or she can follow the sound, but quietly, with her curiosity outweighing her fear. And if I choose this, her discovery is laced with some risk, and the suspense climbs a bit. My third choice is for her to run, to flee, and convincing herself that this was all her imagination changes things. So I'm withholding the moment, and it postpones the revelation of whatever it was that was calling her name, and it heightens that anticipation. Courage leads to discovery. Hesitation builds atmosphere, and retreat recharges that suspense battery. That's one way to look at it. So these are all Act 2 decisions, right? But they're line by line choices that help you write your structure from within the story. And that is really, really significant. When you zoom in on the moment, you'll see that you're quietly bending the shape of your story. Let's look at the reader experience through these small moments next. Readers don't feel your outline. They feel your pacing. If you lose them with pacing, they're going to put the book down. So here's a pretty good example. Harry Potter and the Sorcerer's Stone. The Hogwarts letters. That could have been a single beat. A letter arrives to Harry. Boom. This is this magic school. But instead of that big reveal in one moment, the author delays. The letters flood the fireplace first, and then Vernon boards the slot, and then they flee into the hut on the rock. Every micro decision to withhold makes the payoff huge, and it's Vernon that's doing the withholding here. So the architecture is through the anticipation and the thwarting, which leads to the release ultimately. Another example from The House of Spells and Secrets. The first time Rowan confronts the antagonist, I could have had her unleash her power instantly, but instead I layered her choices. She doubts herself, then she listens, the woods stir, and then she calls on their strength. So all of these beats create a very strong rhythm of anticipation, doubt, and then release. So the readers don't name the pattern, but they're experiencing it, they're feeling it. And that is the pacing. The scaffolding that you're doing as an author isn't visible to the reader, but the reader feels it with every breath, every pause, every pivot, every action. How do you train yourself to see that hidden architecture? Well, that's a big question. So here's how you can approach it. You want to always ask questions. What choice is my character making right now, in this line, in this sentence? Not in Act 3, not in the climax, but in this moment, in this line. So here's a quick exercise, and I recommend you do this with any scene. Just pick one. Rewrite a tiny beat from your story in 3 different ways. In the first rewrite, have your character act immediately. She pushes the door open. In the second rewrite, have your character delay. So her fingers hover, the latch clicks, and then there's stillness. And in the third choice, the third rewrite, have your character avoid. So she steps back, promising herself tomorrow. She'll deal with this tomorrow. Now read them out loud. Feel how the tension shifts. Version 1 is going to accelerate the pacing, the story. Version 2 tightens the coil, builds that suspense. And version 3 is going to bank that heat for later. So that is the hidden architecture at work. There isn't a right or wrong decision. It's just that those micro decisions are going to impact how a reader feels from moment to moment. And you're controlling that. So when you're revising, one thing to do is to highlight the verbs and the reaction: hesitated, reached, swallowed, bolted, listened. Think of those as your steering wheel. If a page feels flat, change one decision and see how things kind of pivot, how they change. It's kind of amazing, and it's a great exercise. The story you write is all about choices. So yes, you can use the 3-act skeleton or the hero's journey or save the cat if you like. I love the hero's journey, and its beats really help me map out those key elements. But keep in mind that the soul of your book is built in those tiny line by line decisions. And those are not things you can necessarily outline. Those are things you're making in the moment as you write. And when you focus on that hidden architecture, you're stopping the worry. Did I hit the exact midpoint? You're asking instead, does every moment my character chooses shape, tension, and direction? And that, you guys, is what keeps readers hooked. Not on a structure that they can diagram after the fact, but an architecture that you are helping them feel along the way. Next week, we're going to stack this lens on top of pinch points versus turning points. When do you squeeze? When do you pivot? And how do these choices help you create momentum? I hope you look forward to that. It's going to be good. If you found today helpful, y'all, tap subscribe. Tell me in the comments, what's one tiny character choice in your current scene that you could possibly change to re-tilt the tension, to retool things? I would love to hear it, and maybe we can workshop a couple in a future episode. So subscribe, hit that like button, and until next time, happy writing.
Ain't never needed Poppy's blessing, no.